Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Abalos, and welcome to e-Skwela 11. So, we're here today, and we're joined today by one of our resource speakers who will talk about the Google Classroom and its affordances. So, before we start, I'd like to thank all those people who have been very supportive of this initiative, most especially our educators out there. Um, Before anything else, I also would like to um, greet everyone a happy week. And let me call in now our guest speaker, right? Is she here already?
Yes, I'm here. Hello,
Ah,
Mark. Good morning.
okay. Okay, Mary, before we start, I'd like you to introduce yourself very briefly to our audience.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. And I'm happy to be here today. And thank you so much to Globe and Google for Education for inviting me. My name is Mary Manzano. I am the owner of gtech.guru and the co founder of Artstock PH. And I'm also a Google for Education certified trainer and a certified innovator as well.
Okay, thanks, Mary. So, before we start, I'd like to ask you some questions. Kamusta ka as a professional this quarantine? Because everyone's so busy. Our schools have been, very um, how do I say it? They're preparing. Our schools are preparing for the opening of the school year. Some of them have already started. But how about you being a practitioner in the educational technology space?
I guess this is the perfect time. Like if you're an ed tech coach or an ed tech professional at this point in your life, this is the time when you are the most needed. And I really feel that this is something that I've been preaching for the last 10 years, even before people would say, ano ba yung cloud? And after 10 years, this happened. And I've seen those schools that actually listened and got into cloud technology are better able to adjust. And those that were not are now starting to cope and catch up. So that's the reason why, for those people who are out there, EdTech people, hello to you. And I know that medyo busy tayo ngayon. I've been very busy this whole quarantine. Actually, mas busy pa ngayon than the last years.
Mhm. Is this something that you really envisioned happening? Of course, not COVID-19, but schools adopting digital technologies, learning technologies for them to deliver learning and education.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's something that I've always envisioned. I mean, I was the project manager and account lead for Department of Education when it went Google 8 years ago in 2012. So at that time, internet was still kind of shaky, but we still did it because in our minds, our thought was that we cannot wait for bandwidth to get better before we innovate. We have to innovate because bandwidth will catch up. It will always be slower than what you expect. Diba? You'll always find ways to use it up.
Yeah, I think that's one good insight, Mary. I mean, like if we don't start with digitalization and adapting learning technologies right now, right or now, this is the perfect time also to make sure that it's something that is an investment also for our future generation. What's
That is
special about this episode, guys, is it's the World Teachers Month, and we are we are very honored to be joined by Mary because this is something that we have really planned for. Um, Another thing, Mary, what do you miss most about the classroom?
Oh, the noise. I miss the noise because right now when we're doing our online classes, and I feel that all of the teachers who are watching right now who have been doing online classes, you know that you're either talking to a screen or a grid that is full of faces that are on mute. So if you say something funny, There's usually collective laughter in the classroom. You don't hear that anymore in an online class, and that's something that I sorely miss more than anything. And movement. I like to move in the classroom. I'm very kinetic, so I like making people stand up and move. And in an online class, that's kind of, you have to do things differently.
Yeah, I think that's one common denominator that we have. I also like moving around and checking the work, the collaborative work of my students. So I'd like to greet also every educator out there. Happy Teachers Month. And what we have in store for you today is something that would really be helpful. Makakatulong po ito sa lahat ng mga klase nyo. And another question, Mary, before I let you proceed to your presentation. If there's one teacher that has inspired you, can you tell us about that teacher and how did this person inspire you the most?
Oh, that's good. Let's see. I'm old. So the teacher that inspired me the most was my grade four homeroom advisor. I came from the public school system, so in Mexico, Pampanga. So she was my grade four science teacher. Her name is Mrs. Annabel Ong Legaspi. So Mrs. Legaspi, if you're out there and watching, hello and thank you so much for everything that you taught me. She was a difficult terror teacher, a little bit, but most of the things that I learned about theory and about design thinking, about exploration, and about reading more and learning more, I learned from her. She was kind of the foundation for exploration for me. It's like sky's the limit. As long as you are interested to learn something, you can learn it. That's the best thing that I learned from her.
Thank you, Mary. To my teachers also, happy Teachers Day.
Happy teacher day.
And thank you for helping me become the person that I am now. So without further ado, Ms. Mary Manzano presenting the affordances of the Google Classroom today. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you. All right, so everybody, welcome again to our Google Classroom training. And today, our title for the training is the affordances and features of Google Classroom. So let me just see if there you go. So a lot of people might be asking what are affordances. So in this case, in educational technology, we're looking at technology that you can already use. So basically, we're looking at features of Google Classroom that are usable for you as a teacher. And as a house rule, I usually let people get access to my presentation so you can actually follow me in your own computers if you would like. So at the bottom of the presentation, you can see there that the copy of the presentation may be found in bit.ly slash Eskwela 11. And today, the title of our webinar series is e-Skwela. So again, the presentation can be found at bit.ly slash e-Skwela 11. So small letters. Basically, the reason why I'm giving you guys a copy of this is because we only have an hour. So in this 1 hour, we are going to be taking a look at the features of Google Classroom. And I'm going to take you through the basics. And later on, we will have some space for Q&A. The presentation will have a lot of links, okay? So that means if you get access to this presentation, after this training, you will have the ability to just learn more basically by clicking on the different links that I've embedded inside this presentation. Okay, let me move on to what are we going to be learning today. So we will be learning. The first one is what is Google Classroom and what can you do with it. The next is how to set up the class. How do you add these students? Next is how to navigate your Google Classroom pages. You have 4 Google Classroom pages: Stream, Classwork, People, and Grades. And then how to assign schoolwork and grade your students. And finally, I have a page for you that contains some tips as well as resources just in case you would like to learn more as well as explore more down to certification. Okay, so let's dive in like really quickly. Again, 1 hour lang tayo, so I'm just gonna move to my slides really quick. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to comment and ask these questions, and I'll be seeing them and addressing them as we go along, as well as in the Q&A later on. Okay. So, what is Google Classroom? What can you do with it? Ano ba tong Google Classroom? So, Google Classroom is it's a tool. So basically, it's an app within G Suite for Education. And what it does is it helps educators to create classes, to grade their students, and to also collect assignments in a paperless manner. And the reason why this is so and why this is relevant is because now, since we cannot go back to our classrooms, right? Wala tayong choice. We have to do online learning. And Google Classroom is great for both synchronous as well as asynchronous learning. So when you say synchronous, online classes, na nakikita nyo yung mga estudyante nyo. When you say asynchronous, it means that these are some activities that you can assign to your students pagkatapos nitong online class nyo. So for some of the public school teachers that are watching right now, I know that we are doing some modular as well. So kung modular, pwede ring blended learning, pang-blended learning din yung Google Classroom. So one of the things that I really like about Google Classroom is that it already has Google Meet embedded in it. So isa sa mga distance learning tips ko dito sa baba is you can make it easier to see your students and colleagues by creating a Google Meet straight from your Google Classroom. That is something that you can already do. Now, like I said, this is an app that is within G Suite for Education. Ano ba yung G Suite for Education? G Suite for Education is a set of applications. So it's a free suite for schools, and it contains a lot of productivity tools like Gmail. You have your Google Drive. These are all consumer tools that you're already familiar with, Google Calendar. And it also has its own office productivity tools, gaya ng docs, sheets, and slides, which are actually your equivalents for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Meron din kayong interactive whiteboard dyan. So if you don't have G Suite for Education yet in your school, contact your administrator and contact any of the partners that we have for Google, or even Mark here, or even myself, and we can help you out with getting on board G Suite. So the primary key features of Google for Education, or G Suite for Education, is that it's highly collaborative. So that means pwede kayong mag-collaborate with your students, your co-workers, your management, your principal, kahit na hindi kayo magkakasama sa iisang room. So ang maganda dito, pag naka-G Suite kayo, madali yung life nyo when it comes to communication and collaboration. Kasi everything is, all of these productivity apps have collaboration in mind when they were built. And right now, all over the world, there's so many people that are using this. And as of June, we have 140 million students and educators using G Suite for Education. Once again, I'd like to do a shout out to Miss Eileen Apollo for introducing me to Mark here so that we can do this training for today. Now, this is what I mean by Google Classroom being, or my presentation having so many links. So like I said, since 1 hour lang tayo, we have very, very limited time. I can do a Google Classroom training for a whole week, or I can do it for an entire day. But when you have 1 hour, I have to rely on you as teachers, at alam ko mga teachers magagaling matuto, to actually explore more. So as teachers, ito yung mga pwede nyong gawin. These are the things that you can do. The first one is you can start a video meeting inside Google Classroom. You can also create and manage your classes. Pwede kayong gumawa ng mga virtual classrooms that have your students in them. And then you can create these assignments and questions inside those classrooms. And then you can also grade those assignments. And even auto-grade them. Kung gumagamit kayo ng Google Forms, you can even auto-grade your assignments kahit na walang papel. The other thing is you can add materials. So as you know, marami sa mga materials natin can be books, it can be videos, It can be websites, it can be portfolios. So itong mga materials na to, pwede nyo i-add sa Google Classroom and pwede nyo itong i-add as part of your curriculum, as part of your syllabus, kumbaga, na ma-access ng mga estudyante. Next is you can give direct feedback. One of the things that I really love personally about Classroom is the number of ways that you can give feedback to your students. And as you know, right now, with 21st century learning, we need to make sure that that communication line is very open. We need to make sure that we are giving feedback to our students and that our students are also able to give feedback back to us as well as their classmates. And Google Classroom is perfect for giving feedback because it really gives you a lot of avenues for giving these forms of feedback. The next is you can post announcements as well. I like this because if you have any announcements like baka mamaya babalik na pala tayo sa classroom, right? So you can post these announcements and even engage students. Binibigyan kayo ng Google Classroom ng parang Facebook wall. And this wall would allow the students to actually comment on your announcements or even spark discussions within your class. So para kayong merong very live bulletin board where people are actually posting comments in your Google Class. The next one is you can also engage them with question-driven discussions. Pwede kayong mag-post ng mga poll. Pwede kayong magtanong. For example, even a casual getting to know question like, saan ang galing ang pangalan mo? Where did your name come from? That is a question-driven discussion already. And you can do that easily with Google Classroom. And finally, syempre, wag nating kalimutan yung mga magulang. You can invite parents and guardians to sign up for an email summary. Why is that so? Para dun sa mga teachers natin that are teaching the lower grade students, a lot of the parents are normally asking for feedback or updates. Kumusta na yung anak nila? How are they doing in school? The good thing about Google Classroom is that it can automate these updates to the parent. So you can encourage the parent and the guardians to sign up for these email summaries, and Google Classroom will take care of sending out the weekly summaries to these parents and guardians. So weekly, hindi nyo na kailangan gawin yun. Google Classroom will be the one to send it out to let the parents and guardians know ano ba yung upcoming work, ano ba yung mga missing work, what if di pala nag-submit yung anak nila ng assignment for the week. How will they know about it? They will know because of Google Classroom emailing them. Anong meron pa sa Google Classroom aside from that? So we're talking about teachers here, but there are also other parts of the equation, the students, the parents, and the administrators. So students can track their classwork and submit assignments. So basically, students will be signing up in Google Classroom, entering your class or enrolling inside your classes, and then they can submit their assignments using either their computer or their mobile phone. Yun yung maganda dito, very, very versatile. And you can, very simple also. So kahit mga bata, ang dali-daling gamitin, hindi sila mahihirapang gumawa ng assignment and mag-submit. They can also check for originality, feedback, and grades. What does this mean? Originality is checking for plagiarism. So, as you know, Google Classroom is Google's. So it does have access to the world's information because Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it accessible, right? So that means that students can actually check for originality just in case they need to cite information. They can easily cite it using checking for originality reports. The other thing is they can check their teachers' feedback, classmates' comments, classmates' feedback, and also check on their grades and how they're doing in their assignments. They can also see and interact by email to their teacher by just going to their classroom and emailing their teacher from there. The parents, like I said earlier, can get an email summary and also review the announcements that the teacher has put inside Google Classroom. Now, if you are on G Suite for Education, then as an administrator of G Suite for Education, you can take a look at some of your admin superpowers. I think that's what I would call it, because you can set up classes and rosters and make them available to the teachers. You can take a look at protecting data and setting permissions. You can also add or remove students from classes and also get support from Google. For example, kunyari mag-down yung Google Classroom, which I hope hindi naman mangyari because hindi naman usually nangyayari yon. We do have a 99.9% SLA or service level agreement na walang downtime or walang scheduled downtime ang G Suite for Education. Okay, so if in case na kailangan ng support, administrators can actually look for support from Google 24 by 7. Okay? I'm not sure if we have any questions right now, but if you have any questions, like I said earlier, magtanong lang. Next, sabi ko nga kanina, Google Classroom is available on mobile. I have put in a download link right here. Just click on the download link when you access this presentation. And when you click on the download link, you'll be able to get all of the download links for the following applications. I really recommend that you tell your students to download the following apps on their phones. Why is that? Because here in the Philippines, mas pervasive ang mobile phones kaysa sa mga students na may computers. And I've seen in the last few months during the pandemic, marami talagang nagkaklamor ng mas mumurahing computers. Kasi we know na yun talaga yung isa sa mga issues, accessibility, access devices. So we also know that Filipinos are one of the biggest users of Facebook in the world. And that means meron tayong mga mobile phone. So when you have a smartphone, tell your students to just download the following apps so that they can access all of their assignments, resources inside their mobile application. So kahit na nakatelepono lang sila, pwede silang gumawa ng assignment nila at pwede nilang isubmit yung mga assignments nila as long as they have these applications in their phone. Okay? So the reason why I also added Google Meet in there is because if you have a class, then they can join your class using their phone if they have the Google Meet application. Okay? So that's my distance learning tip for you. Now, people are asking me, pwede ba ako mag-access ng Google Classroom kung ang email ko Gmail lang at hindi ako naka-G Suite account? Yes, you can. However, you have to know that there are limitations when you're using your personal Gmail account. Okay? So when you use your personal Gmail account, there are 3 limitations that I've listed here. One is that students will not be cannot email their classmates because emails will not be visible to them. Next is that teachers will not be able to invite the parents and the guardians to sign up because guardian summaries or parent guardian email summaries are only available in the G Suite editions. Next is that children who have an account that are managed by the parent cannot create or teach classes. Okay, so isa yun sa mga limitations. There are a lot more, like the number of students that you can add, etc., which I will be listing as part of my prezo. Okay, but in your G Suite account, note that if you are teaching children under the age of 13 and below, you need to use G Suite for Education. The reason for that is that G Suite for Education is compliant sa COPA and FERPA. What are those? Those are children's, yung ating Privacy Protection Act para sa mga bata. We need to make sure that their privacy is protected. So we really highly encourage, actually not just encourage, but if you're teaching children under the age of 13, make sure that you are on a G Suite for Education or nonprofits account. Okay? So some G Suite accounts that are being used are not just for education. There is also G Suite Basic, Business and Enterprise para sa mga businesses, and they can also use Google Classroom for their trainings. So iba-iba ang mga G Suite editions, but in this case, we are only going to be focusing on Google Classroom and its use in G Suite for education. Okay. Now, yung admin nyo will be the one to manage your account. So the account would look like your email at yourschool.com. Okay, so pag may mga tanong kayo around this, you just let me know and I'll be able to help you around that as well. So how will you set up your class and add your students? It's very simple. All you have to do is to go to classroom.google.com and sign in with your Google account. So it can be your G Suite account, can be your Gmail account. As long as it's a Google account, go to classroom.google and then sign in. Once you've signed in, you will get to this page that will ask you, student ka ba or teacher ka ba? If you're a teacher, make sure that you choose I'm a teacher, because if you choose student, that would basically allow you to only join classes and not be able to create classes. So you will have to ask your administrator to rectify the mistake. If you made the mistake of choosing I'm a student, don't worry, it's fixable. So you just have to let your administrator know that, okay, you accidentally clicked I'm a student instead of I'm a teacher. So be very careful the very first time that you sign in using Google Classroom. Just pick I'm a teacher. Okay. The next one is, of course, you're gonna get to your Google Classroom. And in Google Classroom, at first, blanco pa yan. Meron lang kayong plus sign dito sa taas. So you'll be able to see this plus sign here. And what you do is at the top of the classes page, upper right-hand corner, you will see that plus sign. Click on the plus sign. You will have two choices. One is to join a class and the other is to create a class. Yung join class, yun yung ginagamit ng mga estudyante natin to join classes. Create class would be for you, teacher. So basically, if you don't see create class, kunyari, click nyo yung plus sign, nakikita nyo lang join class, then it might be that you either just joined as a student or you're not yet verified as a teacher. You need to contact your administrator for help. Okay? When you're creating a class, so click on the plus and then click on create class. When you're creating a class, there's only one thing that is required, class name. Like I said kanina, easy and simple. So you only need to put in the class name. All the rest of the information that is listed there, like the section, the subject, and the room, are all optional. But I encourage you to fill it out later on. Pero to be able to create a class, just click on the class name. And once you've created the class name, you can actually change the theme of the class. At the top of the page, you'll be able to see this bar that is colorful. You can select a different theme. So I know some teachers actually take a class picture and they put this class picture and upload the photo of their class in their class theme, just to feel closer to their students. Kasi nga hindi na natin nakikita yung mga estudyante natin, and you might want to have that little bit of classroom familiarity with them. Other teachers that I know naman gumagawa ng mga Bitmoji. Those are like cartoony versions of themselves, and they put that in as a theme. So it's up to you what kind of theme you want. But Google Classroom has already put in different patterns that you can already use. At marami tong patterns na to. They're varied. It depends on the subject. And you can just click on the patterns, select theme, click on the pattern, and then select the pattern that you want. But if you would like a photo, you can instead click on Upload Photo, select the photo from your computer, choose the image, and you just upload that to select your class theme. Okay? So the next one is inviting students. Syempre, may klase ka na. You've already created your class. Like I said, simple lang. Ulitin natin. The first is to click on the plus sign. Click the create class. I-enter yung class name. And then you already have a class. Now, how do you now invite your students? So you can invite students in 3 ways. The first one is you can invite students with an email link. You can invite students with an email invite, or you can invite students with a class code. Okay, so let's take a look at each of these one by one. So the first one is inviting students with an email link. So on the class card, just click on the more. Itong 3 dots na to, I call it the kebab kasi di ba mukha siyang kebab. Here in the Philippines, siguro mas maganda fishball kasi mukhang fishball. So on the class card, just click on the more yung three dots. Kapag nakikita natin yung three dots na yan, everyone, huwag kayong mahiyang mag-click. Like I say to everybody that I teach, lagi sinasabi sa akin ng mga teachers, Miss Mary, I'm not techie. Medyo slow down. O kaya, Miss Mary, I'm not techie. Hindi ko yata kaya itong gawin. So guys, you don't have to be techie. You just have to be clicky. Tandaan niyo yan, ha? You just have to be clicky. Click on it. Pag nakikita niyo itong kebab na to, or pag nakita niyo itong fishball sign, itong three dots, click on it. Pag hindi niyo pa alam, just keep on clicking until matutunan niyo siya. That's one of the reasons why kids are so easy to learn technology. Why? Kasi they don't hesitate. They just click on what they see. And I really encourage you teachers to do the same. If we're encouraging our students to learn, we need to also encourage ourselves to learn. I know na medyo sink or swim yung pandemic, but I found the teachers during the pandemic, they dipped into the pool and they swam. And I know that you can also do it. Okay, so just click on the class card, click on the more, and then copy the invite link. This link is the link that you will be pasting in your email to your students. And then when the students get the email, they click on the link and they'll be able to join your class. Okay? So the next one is to invite the students with an email invite. You can also invite them using an email invite. When you go to your Google Classroom, you will see that there are 4 categories or 4 tabs at the top. These are pages. And in the people page, you can send an email invite. So under people, you will see teachers there. Why are there teachers? Because you can invite co-teachers. Next is you have students as well. And in your students, you can click on the people sign, itong plus sign na to. And then you can just start adding your emails of the students, and then they will be getting these invites from you. So what they just need to do is to click on the join. Pag pumunta sila sa Google Classroom nila, may makikita silang class card that would ask them to either decline or join your classroom. Okay? And finally, this is the easiest way to join a class or to add students to your class. And this easiest way is to use a class code for your students. So each class that you create would have a class code. So where do you find this class code? When you go to the settings, this is the gear icon. So pag nakita niyo yung gear icon at the top, next to the waffle icon, or next to the 3x3 grid, iba-iba yung tawag nila dyan. Pwedeng 3x3, pwedeng rubric. I just call it the waffle. So when you click on this gear icon next to the waffle, you'll be able to see your class settings. So your class code is in your class settings. It's also in your stream. So it's there, right there in the front page. Dun sa inyong theme, nandun yung class code. So you can just display the class code. This is the class code. You can display it in the projector, write it on the board, just put it on to your Google Meet, gaya nito, if you want to join the class, for example. All I have to do is to click on the plus sign, join class, and type in the code. As soon as they type in the code, they will be enrolled in your class. Of course, right now, may ako mga administrator tayo, pwede naman natin i-ask yung administrator to do it. But the nice thing about this is it gets to build technological fluency for our students because sila mismo yung magkiklik, sila mismo yung papasok sa classroom nyo, and it gives them that feeling, madali lang pala to. It gives them agency. And that's really, really important in teaching. So ito yung mga limits that I was talking about earlier. If you're using a G Suite or a school account versus a personal Google account, there are certain limits. For example, how many co-teachers can you have? You can have 20. Why do you have to have co-teachers? Pwedeng naka-leave kayo and kailangan nyo ng sub, right? So if you have a substitute teacher, you can add that substitute teacher inside your Google Classroom, and that's really good because makikita ng sub nyo kung nasaan na yung mga estudyante, ano yung assignment na inassign nyo bago kayo nag-leave. The other thing is it also allows the homeroom or the advisor to join your class. Maganda to kasi kapag meron kayong co-teacher, pwede nyo i-add si homeroom teacher or the advisor Because once they're there, at least na monitor din ni homeroom, lalo na pag may kailangang RTI or intervention sa mga estudyante na medyo nagkakaproblema tayo, right? For class members, you can have 1,000 for G Suite and only 250 for personal. And for the classes that you can join, 1,000 for G Suite and 100 maximum or 30 per day for the personal. Gaya na sabi ko kanina, there are limitations to using your at Gmail, and these are your limitations. So nilagay ko na yan dyan para meron kayong reference. Okay? Now let's try to navigate. Let's try to navigate our Google Classroom pages. Itong stream, classwork, people, and grades. I'm hoping that I will end this presentation just in time to show a Google Classroom to you so that you can see how it actually looks like. But if in case hindi mangyari yon at makulangan tayo ng oras, I would be sending you as well or adding a YouTube playlist in here. Actually, nandito na siya. So you just have to access this presentation and there is a link there to a playlist for all of your classroom help. So just in case you need it, nandyan na siya. Alright, so let's take a look at navigating our classroom pages now. Gaya ng sabi ko kanina, classroom pages, they come in four pages. Your stream, classwork, people, and grades. So tingnan natin yung stream, classwork, people, and grades. It's just up top in your Google Classroom. So pag nagpunta kayo sa classroom niyo, makikita niyo yung 4 tabs sa taas. May iba-ibang function tong 4 na to. So we'll take a look at each of the functions ng stream, classwork, people, and grades. So firstly, sa stream, you can post announcements. Of course, you can either post an announcement here, or you can also use the stream to push the assignments that you've already created in classwork. Personally, and also as a best practice, I really don't suggest that you push the assignments onto the stream. Isa yun sa mga sinasabi ko sa mga teachers na tinuturuan ko, na as much as possible, when you're setting up your Google Classroom, try not to get the classwork stuff, like yung mga assignment, yung mga quiz, huwag nyo siyang ilagay sa stream. Kasi the stream is the best place for you to do discussions. Treat it like a little bit of a wall for discussion. Para siyang Facebook page, discussion board. So pwede kayo maglagay dyan ng announcements. And as a teacher, you can control the permissions that your students can have. You can allow your students to be able to post and comment. Pwede rin namang mag-comment lang. Or you can disallow any commenting in the stream. Why would you do that? What if you would like them to concentrate on their classwork? You can actually turn off commenting inside the stream page and in the announcements page. Okay? So I like the stream because what it does, kaya siya stream, every time you add something new, it just goes to the top of the page. However, as a teacher, you can also reorganize your posts so that if you would like to pin something to the top, you can move it to the top so that it will not be forgotten. Let's say if you have a really special or important announcement, you might want to make sure that that announcement is at the top of your announcements page or at the top of your stream. Okay? Now, most teachers that I know also, they're big on preparation. And right now, we are nearing the end of our summer. So by October 5th, for public school teachers, magsa-start na yung classes nyo. And if you're going to be using Google Classroom, worry not because you don't have to post the announcement when you're ready to post it. You can actually do it in advance. I like doing things in advance because, one, you can draft it and then post it when you need it. You can also create these announcements in advance and schedule them to be posted when you need them to be posted. For example, we have a field trip announcement 2 weeks from now. I can already create that field trip announcement, let's say a reminder for the parents to sign their field trip consent form. Pwede na natin gawin yon, pwede na natin ilagay sa announcement, and you can already schedule that 2 weeks from now, which is good kasi hindi nyo na kailangang isipin. Ginawa nyo na siya, so it will just post in your stream. Okay, so that's the good thing, no? If your student actually has access to Gmail, because not all G Suite accounts give access to Gmail for their students, lalo na pag lower graders. Sometimes hindi pa nila binibigyan ng email access, which is okay. But if they do have email access, they will get an email when you post an announcement or not. Depende sa settings. So another thing is that most teachers that I know who are using Google Classroom, they tell me, Mary, sobra na-flood ako sa dami ng mga emails that I receive from Google Classroom. Every time somebody comments, I get an email. So again, huwag niyong kakalimutan yung settings icon, itong gear icon na to. There's a gear icon for the entire Google Classroom, and that setting would allow you to control what emails you're going to get. So for example, if you're the kind of person na mas gusto mong medyo muted yung emails mo or hindi masyadong cluttered yung emails mo because you want to be an inbox zero superhero, yun yung mga malinis yung inbox, walang mga unread at the end of the day. You want to be an inbox zero superhero, then you might want to turn off these email notifications and only turn on the ones that are important. Okay? For me, naka-turn on yung classroom notifications ko, pero hindi naka-turn on yung email notifications ko. So that means I actually get a separate classroom app notification on my phone, and hindi na siya redundant. Hindi siya doble-doble. Kumbaga may app notification ko na sa classroom app mo, tapos may email ka pa. Parang dala-dalawa. So try to minimize your notifications para hindi kayo masyado ma-overwhelm. Another thing that you can do with the stream is that you can add attachments to your announcements. So for example, if your announcement has a YouTube video, or you might want to upload the consent form that you would like your parents to sign for the field trip. Yung gaya na example ko kanina. Or you might want to attach a file from your Google Drive, or even to share a link to a portfolio or a resource or a website. You can easily do that. So these 4 options are down below. So these are the attachment types for the announcement. So again, you have the file for uploading a file attachment from your computer. Meron kayong Google Drive for attaching a Google Drive file. You have a YouTube video. So basically, pwede kayong mag-search sa YouTube within Google Classroom. Because as you know, YouTube is also part of the Google ecosystem. Or you can attach a video by URL. Kung meron kayong URL ng video, just attach it there. And also add a link from any site. Click on the link and put in the link there. And you can even get a preview of the link when you put in your announcement. Okay, so don't forget that. One thing also that you might want to check out is that as a teacher, you will have multiple classes. Parang kung yung announcement mo has to be announced to all of your classes, do you have to do it one by one every class? No, you don't have to. Just note that for every single class or section that you have, kailangan kayong gumawa ng isang classroom instance para dun sa klase na yon. So if I'm teaching, say, grade 5 math, for 4 sections, dapat 4 classes yun sa Google Classroom. And let's say I have an announcement for all of my 4 sections, I can easily do that by clicking on the classes and putting in the announcement and posting it to all my classes. I can also have an announcement specifically for students lang. Kunyari, what if I only want to follow up to maybe 4 students na hindi pa nagsasubmit ng kanilang field trip consent form. So hindi sila makakasama pag hindi sila nag-submit. I can actually have a reminder announcement only for them. Hindi na makikita to ng mga ibang estudyante. Makikita lang to ng mga estudyante na tinag nyo. So whoever it is that you tag, those are the only people who will be able to see it. So like I said kanina, medyo personalized. I like how personalized it is, and you can even differentiate it. This same function or feature is also available when you are assigning your assignments. So pag may assignments kayo, pwede nyo i-assign yung assignments na yun to all your classes, all your students, or only to specific groups of students, or only to one student. Nangyayari ba yun? Yung mag-a-assign ka ng assignment sa isang estudyante lang? I think so, right? Because that happens whenever you say remedial or nakalimutan niya mag-submit or hindi pa siya nag-submit ng project, you might want to create, say, a special project for that student na siya lang ang makakakita. So sa classroom niya, makikita niya yung project na yon or yung assignment na yon, but the other classes and the other students will not be able to see that assignment kasi sa kanya lang yun naka-assign. I hope that is clear. There. So another thing that you can see on your Google Classroom is your next tab, which is the classwork page. The classwork page is the most important page for me in Google Classroom because this is where the magic happens. This is where you can assign your assignments. This is where you can ask your questions. This is where you can do your polls. You can put your resources, put in your topics, organize them. This is where you can create your quizzes. So all of these things you can put inside the classwork tab. Actually, I have a teacher who asked me before, parang, Mary, every time I open Google Classroom, naka-bookmark naman siya sa akin, pero every time mag-open ako ng classroom, napupunta ako sa stream. Kasi yung stream, yun yung homepage. Ang gusto ko sana, doon ako mapunta sa classwork. So, if you want classwork to be your landing page, every time papasok kayo sa Google Classroom, i-bookmark nyo yung classwork page, and yun yung i-click nyo. So, pwede naman yun, di ba? So, bookmark the classwork page. So, every time you open your Google Classroom, diretso na kayo sa classwork. Di ba? Next, here you can create these assignments, like I said. And when you create these assignments, pwede na kayong gumawa ng mga docs, sheets, and slides, all from your browser. So, guys, if, for example, you do not have Office licenses for Microsoft Office and you're thinking, naku, paano kaya ako gagawa ng mga documents ko or yung presentation and everything, don't worry because Google Classroom and Google Drive are paired together. Google Classroom is actually more of a drive management tool, which means that you can create these documents, these spreadsheets, and these presentations while you're inside Google Classroom. Just clicking on them, you can create a brand new resource. And even as a student, kung wala akong access to any of those applications, all I have to do is to have my classroom app. And pag sinabi kong create a new document, meron na akong ability doon to create a document. Why? Kasi it's part of G Suite. So creating documents, sheets, and slides are actually part of Classroom. Meron kayong productivity app that is part of it already. Naka-built in na siya. Kaya nga parang ano to one site to rule them all. Diba? There. So you can also create quizzes. Creating quizzes would allow you to create these auto-graded quizzes using Google Forms. I don't know if you just listened to what I just said. I said auto-grade. A large part of our work as teachers is we have to grade student work. And the nice thing about Google Forms is it has the ability for you to create an answer key within the Google form. And as soon as i-submit ni student yung kanyang quiz, it can actually be graded automatically. Or I would say automagically kasi naka-auto-grade na siya. So you don't have to grade it like one by one unless it's an essay. Next is again, you can ask these questions and invite discussion among your students. And of course, you can put in your resources and your material. Very important because these materials or these course materials, it can be books, it can be websites, it can be links to your portfolio, it can be many different things. So I would suggest though that you use something called topic. So mamaya i-discuss natin yan. But firstly, dito sa taas meron kayong makikitang reuse post. Ano kaya yung reuse post? Of course, year on year, gagawa tayo ng Google Classroom, di ba? So next year, what if I want to reuse a post from a class last year? And I just want to reuse it. Do I have to recreate the post? No, you don't have to. You can actually reuse a post that you've already created or reuse an assignment that you've already created. And this is really useful because it saves you a lot of time. And I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of saving time. Now let's go to topic. Why is topic important? Topics are important because it helps you organize the classwork. Imagine throughout the course of the 10-month period na nagtuturo kayo, yung dami ng assignments, dami ng quizzes, materials, questions that you're going to ask. Can you just imagine how disorganized your classroom is gonna be? Diba? So, topics allow you to organize your classwork by categories. So you can create topics as categories and then think of these assignments and all of your quizzes and your questions. Think about them as any material that you're posting to your category. Think of them as your materials or individual lessons. Okay, so if you have individual lessons, make them into your assignments, and your topics would be your category for that assignment. Okay. Now, if you are teaching multiple subjects, for example, I have one class and I'm teaching all of the subjects kasi they're lower graders. I would still suggest na i-topic mo yan. Put it into different topics like mathematics, science. And if you're only teaching one subject, let's say science, of course, you have your first term, your second term, third quarter, diba? And your fourth quarter. And every quarter, you might even have or you might break it down differently. So it's up to you. So you just put your topics in there as your category so that you can be more organized. I really, really suggest that you put in the topics first. When you create your classes, so again, ulitin natin na, yung mga tips ko kanina pa ako naglalagay ng mga best practice. So the first one is when you create a class, make sure that you click on the gear icon, set nyo yung mga notifications nyo, iset nyo yung mga kailangan yung information that you need to put inside your Google Classroom. The next is in your classwork, make sure that you put in the topics first. So that every time you create an assignment, pwede nyo na itag yung topic dun sa assignment na yun. Kasi na nakaset na yung topic, di ba? It's difficult when you have to create a topic pa and then you have to drag and drop pa yung assignments inside specific topics. Can you just imagine the work involved in doing that for many of your classes? So if you're teaching 10 classes, paano ka na, di ba? Ang dami mo nang gagawin, nag-organize ka lang ng topic. So really, really important for you to do these things. And I would call them like housekeeping things, to do these housekeeping things at the beginning of the term and not at the middle of the term para hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Okay? So again, add a topic to any material or assignments that you post. And the nice thing about putting topics also is it organizes your students. Kita nila agad in one view, ito palang itsura ng syllabus natin for the entire year. And they can set their expectations. They can manage their time as well. I would organize my topics by the most current first, and the oldest to be at the bottom. So that means, yung pinakabago yung topic, ilagay nyo sa pinakataas. So pwede nyo i-drag and drop yung topics. So yung pinakabagong topic, put it at the top. And yung oldest topic, ilagay nyo sa pinakailalim. Why am I saying this? Kasi usually, people would do first term, second term, third term, fourth term. And then pag nasa third term na tayo or nasa third quarter na tayo, mag-scroll down ka sa baba para lang makita mo yung third term. So it's better for you to organize it ng pabaliktad. Or ilagay nyo sa pinakataas yung pinaka-current. Para pagbukas ng estudyante ng Google Classroom, pati rin ikaw, pagbukas mo ng Google Classroom, pag tinignan nyo yung classwork nyo, agad-agad makikita mo yung pinaka-recent na topic sa pinakataas. Okay? And it's good kasi at least draggable siya. Is draggable a word? Yan. Next is people. So again, in your pages, you have the people tab. And the people tab, this is where students can see and email their classmates and teachers. Again, only available in G Suite for Education, not available in the personal Gmail. Okay? And you teachers can also see all of your other co-teachers. And you can also see all of the students that have been enrolled, yung mga invited na hindi pa pumapasok sa klase nyo, invited na hindi pa pumupunta sa email nila para i-click yung invite link. You'll be able to see all of these information inside the People tab. The People tab is also where you'll be emailing the parents and the student guardians. Dito nyo pwedeng i-enter yung parent email na nakaakibat dun sa student nyo. So, kung meron kayong student, meron kayong email ng parent nila, pwede nyo i-add sa tabi ng name nung student. So, meron kayong facility dyan. Once again, nakita nyo yung mga three dots dyan. Click on the three dots. Don't be afraid of it. Okay? Click on the kebab. And you'll be able to see the the uh, the form there where you can put in the parent email or the guardian email that matches the student. And kapag inaccept na ng parent or guardian yung invite nyo to sign up for an email summary, then every week they will be able to get an email summary when you send it out. So it's in your control, teachers, if you would like to send out an email summary or not. It's up to you. But again, for lower graders, these are really, really useful and also time saving. Once again, time saving to para sa inyo. So finally, you have a grade book. This is a very new tab or a new page. And I really like that Google Classroom more and more is becoming closer to becoming a full-fledged LMS. There are many people who tell me, is Google, or ask me, is Google Classroom an LMS? It's not yet a learning management system. It is a classroom management app, but it's not yet a full-fledged, full-featured learning management system, but it does have the makings of becoming one. And more, because Google has been listening to your feedback. So pag may feedback kayo, Google has been listening to your feedback. Pwede kayo mag-feedback. Click nyo lang yung question mark, hanapin nyo yung question mark at the bottom of the page. And if you feel na, bakit kaya yung classroom walang ganito? Sana may ganito. So if you have these hopes, these wishes of what classrooms should have, you can click on the feedback. Any feedback nyo lang yan sa Google. The more people who are requesting for a feature, the faster it actually appears in Google Classroom, because Google actually listens to feedback of teachers. They listen and they keep improving. Google Classroom is a fairly new application. It was just launched in 2014. And if you think about it, it's 6 years old. It's very young, but in the 6 years that it's been in existence, it has improved so much in the last 6 years. So here you can have a grade book, and in your grade book, you can see all of your students. And your students will also be able to see their grades. Syempre, kanila lang, makikita nila. But for you as a student, as a teacher, you'll be able to see all of your students and their grades. And these are also exportable. So pwede nyo i-export as a Google Sheet or as a CSV file. So kung mas mahilig kayong mag-analytics using your Excel or using your spreadsheets, then you can export the grades in a Google spreadsheet, and then you can make your graphs, or you can analyze your data from there, or you can even copy paste it and put it in your official grade book. Meron kayong official grade book. For some information systems and for some grading systems, your administrators can actually connect Google Classroom to these grading systems, but it does require a little bit more programming. Okay? Kasi may mga iba na meron na silang existing na grading system, and ang normal na tanong nila, pwede bang idikit yung Google Classroom sa grading system namin? Pwede naman, pero kailangan may magpo-program nun. Kasi Google Classroom has created a hook where you can actually hook it to these different systems. Pwede, pero kailangan mo i-program. It's not out of the box. Okay, so you'll be able to see here kung sino nag-submit, sino yung hindi mo pa na-return, right? In a few, I will be letting you know what does return mean. Yeah. So, andito na tayo. How do we assign schoolwork and grade students? Oops. There. Buhay pa ba kayo? I hope you're still alive. There. Ayan. Sasabihin ko sana kay Mark, meron ba tayong break? Pero I'm looking at the time and I have, how much more time do I have? 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 30 more minutes. Masyado yata akong mabilis. I try to kind of breeze through this, pero worry not. Like I said kanina, you do have a copy of this presentation. So You can browse through this at your own pace, even after this live stream is over. Once again, that is bit.ly/eskwela11. Doon lang kayo pumunta and you'll get access to this presentation. Okay? Now, under classwork, this is where you can create these good things, right? Yung assignment, quizzes, your questions, and your material. Always get excited whenever I create a brand new class kasi sobrang malinis na malinis pa siya, and then it has so many possibilities. So, once you've created your class, you just have to create or click on the create button, and yung create button na yon is the one where you can create the assignments for your class. So just it's at the top left button to get started, and then when you create an assignment, you can use resources from your Google Drive or YouTube, or even resources from your computer that you can upload to assign student work. However, I really recommend that you assign Google Drive files so that Google can make a copy just in case you need it, or Google can make a copy for each student. So this actually gives the students a really easy path to create and turn in their assignment in Google Classroom. So here you can see that when you create an assignment, like in announcements, gaya na sabi ko kanina, sa announcements, you can post it, you can save it as a draft, or you can schedule it to post at a later date. Similarly, in your classwork, when you create an assignment or a quiz, you can create an assignment, post it immediately, you can save it as a draft, or you can schedule it to post at a later date. So once na natapos na ng mga students yung assignment nila and they've turned it in, you can then grade it and return it to the students. So bakit may return? Kasi ito yung workflow natin. So ang workflow natin sa Google Classroom, very simple na. 4 steps. So firstly, mag-create ka muna ng assignment sa Google Classroom. Saan mo gagawin yon? Sa classwork. Punta ka sa classwork page, click on the create button, click on the assignment. So you create an assignment first, and then you attach the files, right? Attach the files or put in your instructions or your links. So step 2, anong step 2 natin? Student will see it. So yung student nyo, meron din siyang classwork page. Ang difference ng classwork page niya is doon niya makikita lahat ng inassign niyo sa kanya or lahat ng mga shinare niyo na resources sa mga students. So when the students click on the classwork page, this is what they will see. They'll be able to view your assignment, and then they can attach their files, or they can edit the file that you've already added there in case it's a file that needs to be edited, right? And then they click on the turn in button or the submit button. It really depends. It can be turn in if it's a document. It can be submit if it's submitting within Google Classroom. Okay? So they turn it in. And once they've turned it in, it's the equivalent of, alam niyo, may inassign kayong paper sa klase, binigay niyo sa kanila, gumawa sila ng essay, for example. And then, after nilang gumawa ng essay, anong gagawin nila? Ita-turn in nila, di ba? Sasubmit nila sa'yo. Now you have a stack. You now have a stack of papers. Anong gagawin mo dun sa stack na yon? I-grade mo siya. So step 3 is you start grading. Ang difference dito is you do your grading inside Google Classroom. So itong grades na to, you'll be adding it here. So you can put in the grades for each of your students, and then once na natapos nyo siyang i-grade, anong gagawin nyo pag natapos nyo siyang i-grade? Ibabalik nyo ngayon, di ba? Ibabalik nyo yung mga sinabit nila sa kanila para makita nila yung grade nila. So what you do now is after you grade, you can then return. So there is a button there called return. So pag natataka kayo, ano po itong return na to? Return is just returning a graded assignment to the student. So one best practice, return it kahit di sila nag-submit. Bakit? Kasi pag hindi sila nag-submit, di ba may grade pa din yun? Kahit 0 yun, you need to grade the student. Kapag kunyari hindi siya nag-submit ng assignment, i-grade nyo pa din. So, and then i-return nyo. Para sa side nyo, malinis yung tasks nyo. You'll be able to say, okay, nag-grade ko na tong assignment na to completely. Even the ones na nag-submit ng late or yung the ones na hindi nag-submit at all, you can still return it. So hindi talaga siya physically returning it, but actually just grading it and making sure that the student is graded even if they did not submit their assignment. So isa yun sa mga i-remind ko lang for all of our teachers, or if I have a student here that's watching, if you're a student, don't forget to submit. Kasi sometimes yung mga students sinasabi nila, ha, natapos ko na yan bakit ako zero? Kasi nakalimutan niya i-submit. Nakalimutan niya i-click yung button that says turn in. Or kala niya, nung natapos na siya isulat yung essay niya, yun na yun. Right? So it's like writing your essay at home and not turning it in to the teacher. So you need to make sure that you let your students know that it's important that they submit every time, that they turn in every time. Or else, diba, zero sila. Another thing is you put in due dates. You know, as a teacher, you can put in due dates for your assignments. I really like the ability to put in the due date kasi napupunta siya sa calendar. And pag nasa calendar na siya, may reminder na. So, in my calendar, kapag nakasync yan sa phone mo, nire-remind ka na, oy, ayan na, pa-June na yung assignment mo. It's gonna be due tomorrow. You might want to start cramming and doing it now. Kasi parang wala pa rin nagbabago sa mga estudyante natin kahit na online learning, di ba? Nagka-cram pa rin sila. So step 4, now that you have returned their work, now that you have graded it, now it's time for the students to see their grades. Now here's the good thing about it. Kanina sabi ko sa inyo, you have the ability to have feedback or to put in feedback. So in Google Classroom, when you grade a student, you have the option to put in a private comment or a private feedback to your student so that the student themselves can see your feedback. Maganda yun. Lalo na sa mga quizzes nyo. Yung sinabi ko kanina na sa Google Form quizzes, you have the ability to do auto-grading. You also have the answer key. Basically, you can also put in feedback doon. What if mali yung sagot? What if tama ang sagot? Pwede na kaya maglagay doon ng ready-made feedback or automatic feedback na kapag mali ang sagot nila, ito ang feedback. Baka kailangan pong basahin ang page 234 ng book mo. Pwedeng gano'n, di ba? So, students see their grades and they see your private comment. It's nice to have these private comments. Bakit? Kasi it allows you to become a little bit closer to your students, especially now during the pandemic na hindi mo sila makakausap face-to-face. So by the way, if the student, kunyari masyadong maaga natapos yung kanyang assignment, sinubmit niya, tinurn in niya, and hindi pa naman due date, pwede niya pang ibalik yun eh. Pwede niya pang i-take back yung kanyang paper. Note that I have edit access to it. If I'm a student, when I turn it in, I lose edit access. Because it just makes sense na kapag tinurn in mo na yung assignment, hindi mo na siya pwedeng baguhin. Pero kung hindi pa due date, pwede mo pa siyang i-take back. Like, ay, may nakalimutan ako. May gusto akong idagdag. Diba? Pwede mo pa ulit kunin yung assignment na yun and then i-edit mo ulit and then you turn it in ulit. Once you turn it in, wala ka na ulit access. So basically, you lose access to your work once you've turned it in as a student, and now the teacher would be able to see your work, pero hindi mo na siya ma-edit. So wala nang, kumbaga, wala nang bawian, touch move. There. So this is your workflow, no? So just remember, it's a simple 4-step workflow. Once again, you create the assignment, you attach the file. Next is the students would answer your assignment and then submit it to you. Next is you grade it, and then you return it to the students. And finally, the students will be able to see the grades and their feedback. Very, very simple workflow. Now, here in your classwork, I have put in, ito pong mga violet na nakita nyo, puro links po yan. So, just click on the different links. So, iba-iba yan. It goes to different pages, okay? So, these are like multiple help pages for you, so that when you click on it, how do you do this? So these are all how-to pages. How do I add a grade category? How do I change the point value? How do I add a due date? So all of these are in here, so you can just click on them to know how to do it. Kasi baka makalimutan nyo after this training, or you just want to revisit or refresh your memory on how to do it. So when you create an assignment, once again, you can post to multiple classes. You can post to individual students, especially pag meron silang remedial, or especially kapag meron kayong group work. Maganda yung mga small group work because it allows students to collaborate tightly into a small group. So you can definitely do that. You can post to say a group of 5, and tong group of 5 na to sila yung group 1. And then you can reuse the post. Okay? And then post to group 2, reuse the post, post to group 3. Okay? Ganun ang ginagawa ko normally pag kunyari group work. You're gonna have to create multiple assignments for those different groups. You cannot assign it now one assignment grouped agad. No. You're gonna have to create one assignment, assign it to the group, duplicate it, and then assign it to the next group, and then reuse the post again, assign it to the next group. That's how easy it is. Basta mag-reuse lang kayo na mag-reuse. Just create the base assignment muna. Next is may grade categories kayo. So it can be different grade categories. Kunyari, sa homeroom, I'm putting homeroom as 15% of grade or 10% of grade. What if recitation is 20% of grade? Long tests or assessments could be 20% of the grade. You can put in these grade categories and percentages inside your Google Classroom, and just go to the gear icon once again, and you will be able to change these grade categories and point values. So if you're on a 1 to 100, 1 to 5, diba, na grading system, it's up to you what kind of grading system you want to use. You can put in the point values in there, okay? Next is you can also add a rubric. I really love this because this is a very recent addition, that you can add a rubric to your assignments. So if when you create an assignment, you can put in the rubric there. And the good thing about the rubric is that it's a guide for both you and the student. Kasi at least you know how you're actually going to be grading your students. And when you're grading the assignment itself, you can view the rubric as a reference. I know that the older teachers would probably have or take their rubric, yung rubric nila naka by heart na, kabisado niyo na yung mga rubrics niyo. But so basically all you have to do is to recreate these rubrics and just put it in digital format, put it in Google Classroom so that you can have it there when you're grading your students. And finally, you can turn on originality reports. Just note that originality reports is limited for G Suite for Education users. So sa G Suite for Education natin, we're only limited to running 5 originality reports for, give me a second, just 5 assignments per course. Okay, you're limited to 5 assignments that can run originality reports per course or class. The ones that have unlimited originality reports or plagiarism checker are the ones that are currently on the G Suite Enterprise for Education. So, note na hindi ko pa din i-discuss yung other edition na yon, but if you're on the G Suite Enterprise for Education, G Suite Enterprise for Education is not the free version. This is the subscribed version of G Suite for Education, and you can subscribe to it to get unlimited originality reports. Okay, so just in case this is something that's really important to you, then you might want to think about it, especially if you're an administrator. Okay? There. So, unless you're posting to multiple classes, you can actually post to individuals, gaya ng sabi ko kanina. However, you can only do individualized posting ng mga assignments or classwork if and only if pang isang class lang yung post nyo. Pero pag nag-post kayo to multiple classes, kunyari gusto kong post tong assignment na to dun sa 4 na klase ko, then automatically all students yun. Okay? So ulitin natin, if you're posting to multiple classes, automatically all students yun. But if you're only posting an assignment to one class, you can choose individualized. Pwedeng you can choose the students that you're going to be assigning the assignment to. Okay? So on the posting, you have a limitation of not posting more than 100 students at a time. And usually naman, 100 students, medyo marami-rami na yun, di ba? Teachers, yung 40 nga or 50, medyo marami na yun. And I really admire you teachers for being able to handle large class sizes, especially here in the Philippines. In the public school system, ang lalaki ng class sizes natin. So, saludo talaga ako sa inyo and being able to manage and handle that. Now, in ClassWorks, like I said, pag nag-assign kayo ng assignment, same with announcements, meron din kayong apat na possible attachment dito. Again, the file, the Google Drive, the YouTube video, and the link. Now, if you choose the Google Drive as an attachment, you have three options. Pwede nyo sabihin dun sa Google Classroom na students will only be able to view the file. Or students will be able to edit the file. Bakit mo siya bibigyan ng edit access? What if I want to create one full presentation where every slide is one student? And I will assign, every student create kayo ng one slide and you will make this entire deck. So you can have that. And finally, Google Classroom can make a copy for each student. Gustong-gusto ko to kasi pag meron akong template, kunyari template ng what did you do last summer? Ganon. And meron akong gustong format na makita, may instructions, may name, may section, may instructions. And then meron akong question. Before they actually answer, they can, Google Classroom can make a copy. Pag pinili niyo yung option na make a copy for each student, Google Classroom will automatically create a copy for each of your students with the name of the student there. So pag binuksan ni student yung Google Classroom niya, may makikita na siya agad dun na attachment na nakalagay na yung pangalan niya. I-click niya na lang yun and then fill out na niya na lang ng sagot niya. Okay? And when he's done, once again, turn in or submit. Okay? So this is actually really, really nice. Itong make a copy na to, I really love it because it allows you to make these even complicated templates. You can make a copy for each student. Okay? Now, finally, you grade and return. Diba? Ito yung step 3 natin kanina. Provide feedback and grades. Once na turn in na, you can then see all of their work inside your Google Classroom. And then you can provide feedback and grades based on the grading system and grading categories that you have already put in your settings. So, andito yung, click mo lang yung name ng student and lalabas na yung work niya. You just click on the work and then you start to see their progress. Nasa na ba sila? Ginawa na ba nila yung assignment? Na-turn in na ba nila? Na-gradean mo na ba? Right? So basically, you can access student work and assignments under the student work tab. So you'll see the student progress. For the assignment, you can sort work by status, like turned in, assigned, or graded. So you just click on the individual's name so that you can see the progress on the assignment, and then you can leave feedback. Actually, Google Classroom even has something called the comment bank. And maganda yung comment bank na yun kasi pwede na kayong maglagay din ng mga normal comments nyo. Ganon din ba kayo gaya ko? Like pare-pareho lang minsan yung comments ko. And I don't want to have to type it over and over. So you have a comment bank where you can put in these regular comments. And every time may makita kayong erroneous or error or kukomentan nyo, piliin nyo lang yung comment nyo from your comment bank. And may comment bank na doon kapag nag-grade kayo. It's really easy. So, just toggle the student work and meron lang kayong left and right doon para makita niyo yung next student work. And for you teachers, pag bago pa lang kayo sa Google Classroom, medyo mangangapa ng konti. Pero gaya ng sabi ko kanina, maging clicky lang. Tingnan niyo kung ano yung mga parts ng inyong grading form. And then tingnan niyo yung mga parts na yun. Click niyo lahat ng mga parts na yon. Itong comment natin, meron tayo ditong comment bank. Meron din tayong grade, meron tayong comment bank sa baba. Okay, so, and then, of course, return. So, just keep returning and grading and returning your students' work. So with that, I'd like to just close with, oh, meron pa akong 10 minutes, pero I'd like to close with some classroom tips and resources. So I put in a Google for Education slide in here that gives you some links to the first day of Google Classroom page. Really, really nice and very simple to follow. So if you're a first time user of Google Classroom, I really would urge you to go to the Teacher Center .withgoogle.com. That's where you're going when you click on this, and you can have more detailed support with our quick start guides. And this is a quick start guide that is also a PDF that you can even print and put next to you if you like paper. Okay? Next is if you would like to learn how to teach from home, meron tayong teach from home tutorials dito. And of course, a Classroom 101 video that we have on YouTube. So here are your links. No, just go ahead and click on it. I hope you find all of these links that I've embedded in this presentation to be useful. Pero in case kulang pa, let me know. And finally, I'd like to thank you guys for, di ba, I'm on time. Hi, Mark. I'm on time. So, thank you again. So basically, what you just need to do is, if you want to connect with me, nilagay ko na rin dito yung mga social media links ko so that you can connect with me on Facebook. You can watch some of my tutorials as well on my YouTube channel. Also follow on Instagram. Every Saturday, by the way, just want to do a quick plug. Every Saturday, we have something called the Weekend Habit. Para to sa mga teachers, ang tawag namin dito, Guro Chat. So, para sa mga Filipino teachers natin, meron tayong 1 hour na pinag-uusapan natin yung iba-ibang topics, and it's very interactive. So if you would like to know more, just go to theweekendhabit.com and you can join us every Saturday at 9:30 in the morning. And of course, my website is also here. And my website is gtech.guru. All right. Okay, so salamat ng madami.
Thank you so much, Mary.
May natutunan ka ba, Mark? Sigurado ako na muna to.
Of course naman, Mary naman natutunan. I'd like to thank you for gracing this webinar today. It's been an enlightening session also, most especially dun sa mga nag-explore pa rin kung paano gamitin ng mga learning technologies natin, lalo ng Google Classroom. So meron tayong a few questions here. Mary, paano daw kapag Gmail lang yung meron siya? Kasi wala naman silang G Suite for Education.
Okay. Pero yung school nila, pwedeng mag-sign up. So just note that G Suite for Education is free. And you can sign up with G Suite for Education in the edu.google.com website. Or you can even email me if you need help kung paano nyo yun gagawin. Kasi free naman yun eh. So, free naman yung G Suite for Education. You just need to make sure that you have a domain. Yung school nyo dapat may domain kasi yun yung isang requirement. And as much as possible, guys, yung domain nyo dapat edu.ph. Kasi yung edu.ph, ibig sabihin nun, eskwelahan talaga kayo. Kasi di ba hindi ka makakakuha ng edu.ph kung wala kang DepEd certificate or CHED certificate. So, yun.
Exactly. So, but going
Pag
back to
GQ lang, pwede naman. Oo, pwede naman. So like I said kanina, may limitations kayo. If you're good with those limitations, then you can go ahead and create your classroom using your @gmail.
Okay. Another question. What if it's a G Suite account? So probably these are like private institutions that would like to explore Google for the Google Classroom. So what if it's a G Suite basic account?
Oo. Pwede din. So basically, if you're a G Suite Basic account user, then you can also use Google Classroom. And I know some of the corporations and corporate clients that I have are actually using Google Classroom for their trainings, for their corporate trainings. Kasi pwede nyo ilagay doon yung mga materials nyo, mga compliance resources, di ba? Usually, year on year, meron kayong compliance training sa mga empleyado na kailangan nilang i-take. Like for example, privacy training, ganyan. sa mga bangko, anti-money laundering, mga ganun. You can use Google Classroom to store these resources and assign assignments.
So it's not only limited sa education sector.
Teachers,
It's also
yes.
different sectors and
Oo,
different
pwede pwede. Oo, pwede pwede sa mga businesses. Like, I have my GTAG.guru business and I use Google Classroom to teach corporate. So, pwede, di ba?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary, for joining us today. But before we end this webinar, I'd like to invite everyone to join us on the National or World Teachers Day next week, October 5. Join us in our Forefront conference. So, Forefront is our first conference featuring digital education. So, there's a lot of papers to be presented, research to be presented for the benefit of our school. So we have invited several presenters talking about different topics, particularly on digital learning. Thank you
Nice.
so much for submitting your abstracts. For those who were not able to make it to this conference, next year po, we're going to have another one. But please stay tuned for the registration link. I think it's open for registration already. We have to of course, make sure that everyone gets access to the materials and to the abstracts, as well as to those research papers that will be presented. So, Mary, we hope to see you in the conference as well. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We are 600 plus strong. The highest peak was 800 plus. Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
for
you
being
so much, everybody. I really, really
well.
appreciate you being here. And I
Okay.
hope to connect with you on social media soon.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary, and I'll see you
Bye.
time again. Bye.